Good morning, everyone. This is Ms. Gok here. Today is October 1st, 2020, and today I'm going to teach you about understanding theme. Personally, I think trying to figure out the theme and its development is one of the hardest things in ELA, but hopefully this video makes it a little bit easier as we break down some of the misconceptions and try to help you figure out how do we understand theme in a text. Now, before we begin, you were probably hoping, wait, Miss Cox, stop. I need to set up my notes, and I'm here to help, okay? So if you pull out your Cornell notes, either on paper or online, here's the topic and objective you can fill out. I would put understanding theme. And then for your essential question, write down, how can determining and understanding theme help us to better understand the story? So if you need to pause the video right now so you can write this down, go right ahead. Make sure you also fill out your name, class and period, and the date. When you're ready, click play, and here we go. Now, first, before we begin talking about how to understand theme, I should tell you the New York State Standard that this was born from. So our next generation standard here is 8R2, determine central ideas or themes of a text and analyze their development. Summarize the key supporting details and ideas. So a couple things I want to point out about this standard. First, that it's not just about determining what the theme is, okay? You also have to analyze their development. In other words, how do we start to learn that lesson from the beginning of the text, and how does it progress throughout the story? A lot of it is going to have to do with plot and what the characters go through. So I think that's why we have the second part in the standard here, summarize the key supporting details and ideas. So you have to be able to explain not only what the theme is, but how did we get there? How did we learn it in the end based on what the characters went through? So what is a theme? The theme in a story is its underlying message or big idea. Usually, this is a critical belief about life that the author thinks the reader should know. So what this means is it's the lesson that the author is trying to teach you in writing their story. A lot of times it's their purpose for writing. They're trying to convey this theme to you. And when they say that it's the critical belief about life, critical meaning that it's really important, it's something that the author thinks that everyone who reads it should know. So a lot of times it's going to be about like life in general or how we go through the world. And by reading about this character and this character's experiences, we will get to learn that lesson for ourselves. Underlying message means that more frequently than not, they don't come right out and tell you the theme, which is why this standard I find to be particularly challenging sometimes. You have to kind of put the puzzle pieces together in order to get to the theme, which makes it complicated, but it also makes it more enjoyable to read the story. The lesson being taught typically transcends cultural barriers, meaning it is universal in nature. When I say universal, I mean that it connects to most everyone, okay? Transcending cultural barriers means that no matter who you are or where you come from or what you believe, this theme will most likely connect to you. And a lot of times that's because authors, when they're writing stories, you don't know who's going to pick up your story and read it. So a lot of times they want to make sure that their theme can connect to anybody. Now, does that mean that there are authors that maybe write themes for specific audiences? Sure. But even so, a lot of times their specific audience, maybe it's a certain age group or a certain culture, they're going to have it try to connect to everyone in that specific group. The lesson is going to touch on the human experience or what it means to be a human. So these themes are teaching us how to be people through other people's experiences. That's sometimes one of the easiest ways to connect to others. And I know we're currently living in a world where it's really hard to connect to others. But even in times like these, I've always found that if I can read and connect with an author, I can build connections where maybe in the world things like that seem lost. Often, a piece of writing will have more than one theme, and the interpretation and importance of each theme depends on the reader. So, a lot of times, simply because characters are going through so much in a text, more than one theme is going to happen. For example, maybe the theme has something to do with family, but there's also a subplot where something about maybe the person's job or ambition or setting goals is also conveyed to the reader. Now, depending on what the reader has gone through in their life, um, it's going to change how they look at the themes. For example, if I'm someone who in my life, all of my focus is towards my career and everything I do is very career heavy, I might latch on to the theme of ambition and meeting your goals more than someone who maybe has a really good connection with their family and family is really important to them. That theme might take precedent over the ambitious one. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. How we view the world and how we experience the world is also how we view and experience texts. So a lot of times in conversation, it's really good to be able to talk and connect with others about a book because you might, I'm so sorry, my cats are going to freak out right now. A lot of times, train of thought is gone. Oh, a lot of times that's why it's really good to talk to others about a book because you're going to get their perspective on what took place in the text. And so that kind of helps us to understand the text as a whole rather than just from our own personal perspective. So, how is a theme different than a main idea or a topic? I'm sure these are words and phrases you've heard a lot. Knowing that you've taken ELA state tests, I'm sure they ask you sometimes for main ideas, sometimes for topics, and sometimes for themes. And how can we tell each one apart? We'll start with main idea versus theme. A main idea is usually what the text is mostly about. So a lot of times you could do this in like a summary versus the theme is the message of the story. So because all of those things happened in the text, because of the main idea, you can get to a theme. Sometimes on a test, for example, they might ask you for the main idea of a text. And a lot of times they'll do that for a nonfiction text or a text that's informational and real. Theme, a lot of the time, is based on something that is fictional. So it's not true, it's made up, or maybe it's partly true, but other details are made up from it. And that's because a lot of the time the author is going to be able to craft what is in their story so that they can get to the theme they want. Versus in a nonfiction piece, a lot of time there's like a main purpose, but the main idea is explaining how they got to that purpose. Finally, the main idea is going to include specific details about the text. So the theme is going to be that universal, it's going to be overarching, it's going to connect to other people. So it's probably not going to mention things like the characters' names or the names of the people that they have relationships with or what they went through, right? The theme is what they learn because of their experience. In a text where they're going to ask you for the main idea, they're looking for specific details about the text. Okay, what were the characters' names? What happened to them? What problems did they go through? How did they solve it? So if you can see, one kind of seems more like a summary and the other one is a lesson. This is really, really big to keep in mind because you will be asked for both for different types of reading and you need to know how to differentiate. Themes versus topics. Okay, so a topic is like a general, like very, very, very general, like idea of what the story was about or like what that lesson was about. And I have some examples here of love, hate, anger, acceptance. These are all very, very general topics that a story might cover. The theme is the actual lesson you learn about that topic. So the examples under themes that I have here is you must learn to love yourself before you can love someone else. Okay, that is something that you might learn about the concept of love or acceptance. The second one I have here is hardships are always easier to endure when you have a friend by your side. So it's talking about hardships, but the lesson that the person learned about hardships is that it's easier with a friend by your side. So it also, the topic might be friendship too. The best way I can think to explain the difference here is like a school subject versus the lesson you learn in that subject. So if I were to ask you what you had for first period today, and you said algebra, and I said, what did you learn in algebra? You would tell me the specific lesson that you learned in algebra, right? Maybe it was associative property. Okay, so associative property would be like the theme of the lesson, whereas the topic might have been algebra. Or maybe you could get even more specific than that and tell me what you learned about the associative property. That would be theme. And then maybe associative property is just the topic. But if you can say it in one word, that is a topic. The theme is you actually explaining what you learned because of this particular story. Also think about it, there are tons of stories that talk about love. There are tons of stories that talk about respect. What is specific about this story? What did you specifically learn because you read about these characters and what they went through? All right, again, we're going to apologize for the cats here, but don't forget, it's important to identify topics within a story. I'm not saying topics aren't important, but always remember when discussing theme, you need to turn that topic into a theme statement. So it's great to be able to figure out the topic, but when covering 8R2, they're not asking for topics. They're asking for the message and how it developed, or the theme and how it developed. So you have to be able to turn it into a theme statement. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So step number 1, create a list of topics that are addressed in the story. So what do they cover? Okay, as you can see in my little brain bubble over to the right, they might cover things like greed, hate, love, family, honor, teamwork, loss, friendship, achieving your goals, fame, relationships, you name it. Okay, there are tons of things that stories can be about, and there are tons of topics that I did not even include over here. Okay. Think of any of your favorite movies, your favorite TV shows, your favorite books, right? They cover so many topics in a short amount of time. So if you can list those topics, that's going to help you maybe start to see exactly what the messages are. Once you have that list of topics, you're going to choose one and write a sentence that conveys the theme. So what did you learn about that topic? If you look at my question to the right, what is the author trying to teach us about the topic? When the author sat down to write this story, what do you think their goal was? What did they want their reader to leave their reading experience understanding about life? Okay, these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves because it gets to the author's purpose. Okay. Now we are going to watch this video here. Okay. I want you to consider the topics that are given at the beginning of the video, and then what happens in the clip. You're going to combine that with those topics to figure out what is the theme of this scene. I will help you out a little bit. This is from The Lion King. It is a little bit towards the end. We're going to take a look and see what we got here.
The Lion King had many moral teachings. The main one was the responsibility of being a leader. But throughout the animation, we have a lot of deep emotional teachings, like the importance of change and facing your past.
All right, we're going to pause here real fast. These are the topics that might be covered in our movie. For example, responsibility of being a leader. That's not really a lesson yet. We have to figure out, what does Simba learn about the responsibility of being a leader? We also have to figure out, what does Simba learn about change, and what does Simba learn about facing your past? So if you need to write these down, go right ahead, pause my video. But we are going to take a look at this scene as a whole and figure out, how does he not only get to a place of learning, but what does he learn about these topics? Here we go.
Boy.
I just want my room back.
Really? We're gonna do an ad right now. The unplanned things of live teaching, everyone. Here we go.
Bye. Hey, wait. You knew my father?
Correction, I know your father.
I hate to tell you this, but he died a long time ago.
Nope. Wrong again. He's alive, and I'll show him to you. You follow old Rafiki. He knows the way. Come on. Don't dawdle. Hurry up!
Hey, wait.
Come on.
Would you slow down?
Stop! Look down there.
That's not my father. It's just my reflection.
No. Look hard. You see, he lives in you.
Father?
You have forgotten me.
No. How could I?
You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be.
You are my son, and the one true king. Remember, you are.
No! Please! Don't leave me! Father! Don't leave me.
What was that? The weather. Very peculiar. Don't you think?
Yeah. Looks like the winds are changing.
Change is good.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I know what I have to do, but going back means I'll have to face my past. I've been running from it for so long. Ow! Jeez, what was that for?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Yeah, but it still hurts.
Oh, yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. You see? So what are you going to do?
First, I'm gonna take your stick.
No. Hey! Where are you going?
I'm going back!
Okay, so if we're going to address the topics that were originally stated to us, right, we have change, we have learning from the past, we have the responsibility of being a leader. Now, in this particular scene, those themes are a little heavy-handed because they do kind of come right out and tell you some of them. For example, in terms of the past, it's you can either run from it or learn from it. And the idea here is you want to learn from the past because it makes you stronger. We could see when he got hit on the head with the stick the first time, and then he ducked the second time, right? Learning from the past makes you stronger. That is a theme, all right? That's the message that we learn. If you just said, what is the theme? The past? That's not a theme. That's not a lesson you learned about it, okay? Now, the next one could be about the importance of, remembering where you came from and being a leader. And he just says, remember who you are, where you come from, and this is not who, you were meant to be. You're more than this. So as the reader, as the viewer, what is a theme that you can extract from all of those little topics, right? Remembering where you come from, being a leader, changing, okay? So it's up to you to kind of connect the dots to put all the little topic puzzle pieces together. But once you do, you're able to explain the universal truths behind what Simba has gone through in this video.